Emily had always been a grounded person, literally and figuratively. Raised in the rolling hills of Vermont, she was accustomed to the stability and predictability of life on the ground. Her childhood home, a rustic farmhouse surrounded by apple orchards and endless fields, was her sanctuary. It was a place where the only thing that ever took flight was the occasional bird or kite. Emily's parents, however, were avid travelers. Her father, a history professor, often took sabbaticals abroad, and her mother, a freelance photographer, accompanied him on his trips. From an early age, Emily was introduced to tales of far-off lands and exotic cultures, but they never tempted her. For Emily, the idea of flying was more terrifying than exhilarating. Her fear of flying, or aerophobia, began to manifest when she was 10. During a family vacation to Europe, their plane encountered severe turbulence. The plane shook violently, the lights flickered, and oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. Though the pilots and flight attendants reassured everyone that it was just a rough patch, the experience left Emily traumatized. She vowed never to set foot on an airplane again. Years passed, and Emily's life remained firmly rooted in Vermont. She pursued a degree in environmental science, focusing on local ecosystems. Her career as a park ranger allowed her to explore the natural beauty of her home state without ever needing to confront her fear. However, as she approached her 30th birthday, an unexpected opportunity arose. Emily's mentor, Dr. Stevens, had been invited to present at an international conference on climate change in Geneva, Switzerland. Due to an unexpected health issue, he could not attend and recommended Emily as his replacement. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to showcase her research on a global stage, but it came with one major hurdle: she had to fly. The days leading up to her departure were fraught with anxiety. Emily spent hours researching statistics on airplane safety, talking to friends who flew regularly, and even visiting a therapist specializing in phobias. Despite their reassurances, her fear remained unshaken. As she packed her bags, her mind was filled with dread, but she knew she couldn't let this opportunity slip away. The morning of her departure arrived, and Emily found herself at the small Burlington International Airport, clutching her boarding pass with clammy hands. Her parents, who had driven her to the airport, tried to soothe her nerves with comforting words, but their efforts felt futile. The sight of airplanes taking off and landing outside the terminal window only heightened her anxiety. As she boarded the plane, Emily's heart raced. She forced herself to take slow, deep breaths, trying to remember the relaxation techniques her therapist had taught her. The narrow aisle seemed to stretch endlessly as she made her way to her seat. Settling in, she fastened her seatbelt with trembling hands and closed her eyes, willing herself to stay calm. The engines roared to life, and the plane began to taxi down the runway. Emily gripped the armrests, her knuckles turning white. As the plane ascended, she felt a sense of weightlessness that made her stomach churn. She focused on the in-flight safety demonstration, trying to distract herself from the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. To her surprise, the flight attendant's calm and professional demeanor provided some comfort. Emily watched as they moved gracefully through the cabin, attending to passengers with reassuring smiles. She envied their composure and wondered if she could ever feel that at ease in the air. As the plane reached cruising altitude, Emily tentatively opened her eyes and glanced out the window. The view was breathtaking. The sun cast a golden glow over the clouds, creating a surreal landscape that seemed to stretch endlessly. For a moment, her fear was eclipsed by awe. She allowed herself to appreciate the beauty of the scene, even if just for a fleeting moment. The flight to New York City, where she had a layover before her international flight, was relatively short. As the plane began its descent, Emily felt a mix of relief and anticipation. She had survived her first flight in years, but the journey was far from over. The thought of the long-haul flight to Geneva loomed large in her mind, but she tried to focus on the small victory she had achieved. During her layover at JFK Airport, Emily found a quiet corner to collect her thoughts. She called her parents, who were eager to hear how her first flight had gone. They praised her bravery and encouraged her to stay strong for the next leg of the journey. Their words provided a much-needed boost of confidence. As she waited for her connecting flight, Emily reflected on her fear. She realized that the anticipation of flying was often worse than the experience itself. The turbulence she dreaded hadn't materialized, and the flight had been smooth. She wondered if perhaps her fear was rooted more in her mind than in reality. Emily decided to take a proactive approach. She visited the airport's bookstore and picked up a book on mindfulness and meditation. She also downloaded a guided meditation app on her phone, hoping it would help her stay calm during the upcoming flight. She knew that facing her fear required both mental and emotional strength. When it was time to board the plane to Geneva, Emily felt a mixture of anxiety and determination. She repeated a mantra in her head, reminding herself that she was capable and strong. As she settled into her seat, she focused on her breathing and listened to a calming meditation. The long-haul flight was a new challenge. The thought of being in the air for several hours made her uneasy, but she tried to take it one moment at a time. The flight attendants once again proved to be a source of comfort, their presence reassuring in the unfamiliar environment. Midway through the flight, the plane encountered turbulence. Emily's heart raced as the cabin shook, but she forced herself to stay calm. She closed her eyes and focused on her breathing, repeating her mantra silently. The turbulence subsided, and she felt a sense of accomplishment. She had faced one of her biggest fears and come out the other side unscathed. By the time the plane touched down in Geneva, Emily felt a sense of triumph. She had faced her fear head-on and survived. As she stepped off the plane and into the bustling airport, she felt a newfound sense of confidence. She was ready to take on the conference and share her research with the world. The conference in Geneva was a whirlwind of activity. Emily found herself surrounded by esteemed scientists and researchers from around the globe. She attended lectures, participated in discussions, and networked with professionals in her field. The experience was exhilarating, and she felt proud to be a part of such an important event. Emily's presentation was scheduled for the third day of the conference. As the day approached, she felt a mixture of nerves and excitement. She had worked tirelessly on her research, and this was her chance to showcase her findings. When the moment arrived, she stood before a packed auditorium and delivered her talk with passion and confidence. The audience responded with enthusiasm, and she received numerous compliments and questions afterward. In the evenings, Emily took the opportunity to explore Geneva. The city's picturesque streets, historic landmarks, and stunning views of the Alps captivated her. She marveled at the blend of old-world charm and modern sophistication. For the first time, she felt a sense of wanderlust, a desire to see more of the world beyond her familiar surroundings. Emily's newfound courage extended beyond her professional life. She decided to confront her fear of flying head-on by booking a scenic helicopter tour of the Swiss Alps. As the helicopter soared over the snow-capped peaks, she felt a rush of exhilaration. The breathtaking views and the sense of freedom in the air were unlike anything she had ever experienced. The helicopter tour was a turning point for Emily. She realized that her fear had held her back for too long. She had missed out on so many opportunities and experiences because of her aerophobia. Determined to overcome it, she vowed to continue challenging herself and pushing her boundaries. As the conference came to an end, Emily felt a sense of accomplishment and growth. She had not only shared her research with the world but also faced her deepest fear. The experience had given her a new perspective on life and a newfound sense of confidence. Back in Vermont, Emily's friends and colleagues noticed a change in her. She was more adventurous, more willing to take risks. She began to explore new hobbies, such as rock climbing and kayaking, activities that challenged her both physically and mentally. Her fear of flying had been a catalyst for personal growth and self-discovery. Emily's newfound courage also extended to her professional life. She applied for grants to conduct research in remote and exotic locations, something she had never considered before. Her work took her to the rainforests of South America, the deserts of Africa, and the glaciers of Antarctica. Each trip was an adventure, and each flight a testament to her determination. Over time, Emily's fear of flying diminished. It never completely disappeared, but it no longer controlled her life. She learned to manage her anxiety and embrace the opportunities that flying offered. Her experiences taught her that fear was not something to be avoided but something to be faced and conquered. Emily's journey was far from over. She continued to explore the world, driven by a passion for discovery and a desire to make a difference. Her work and her travels enriched her life in ways she had never imagined. And through it all, she carried with her the lessons she had learned about courage, resilience, and the power of facing one's fears.